Hey, everybody, we're going to pick up our conversation we started last week. So, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back and listen to that episode, and then you can listen to this episode. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to The Friday Habit with Benjamin Manley and Mark Labriola II.
The Friday Habit is for creators, entrepreneurs, and agency owners looking for actionable ideas on how to grow their business and be more profitable.
We'll pull from our combined knowledge of over 20 years and interview thought leaders that will inspire you and give you the motivation you need to kick your business into high gear. Buckle up. It's Friday.
So would you say that really the key to motivating people, or the key to keeping people engaged and volunteering, because you're not handing out $1,000 checks every week, was it really about the relationships? Was it the fact that you connected with people, built authentic relationships with them, and then all of a sudden they're in on your mission as well to help you take this thing to the finish line?
Exactly. I always had to check myself going, I am not manipulating people. I'm like, am I good at leading people, or am I doing something twisted here? I sometimes get that.
Yeah.
But I think that was almost a part of, again, some of my childhood. Just like I always hate asking people for things. I really do. So it's like my way around that, of like, because it's just hard for me to just go, I need your help. Can you come do this? I've gotten better at doing that now, but that was always a problem. And I think to me, when it came to Norman, let's say specifically the actor Jenny, Melissa, who played Jenny in the movie, something I loved working with those actors. And later, I think in the documentary, she talks about how, and it surprised me, how she's like, this project is like ours, like really being part of a family, was that when we work on a scene, it was never just me like, hey, I'm going to do this. We'd go through the lines and they would have input. And I wanted, because anytime we got someone involved and brought them in the project, if I were to get you involved, Mark, it's like, I want to get you involved to a point where you now have ownership of it. And because of that, it's like now you're responsible for it. You're not just an external person who goes, oh man, I'm just helping to share this movie or whatever. You kind of go, well, now I'm responsible. It's kind of like, now I'm showing off my own kid, like I want him to look nice. And I think if you can get people to that point in a good way, it sounds so manipulated, but it's like, it's not that. It's just more of by giving them a good chunk of the film and listening to them and really trying to involve, especially with Daniel. I just gave him so much freedom to come up with stuff. I gave him input on many of the pieces of music. And he goes, Joel, I just toss all that. I think you're going to love this. And I was like, and he gave me something so wildly different. I was like, oh, this is perfect, dude. And because of that, it's like now he has a piece of it. It's part of his now. It's not just my movie and he happened to write music for it. It's like, no, it's Daniel's movie he wrote music for. And I think that's really important, because I honestly, I've asked many people along the time, like, why the heck did you keep on helping me? Why did you do this? Well, but you'd hear them almost talk about it as if it's their own film. And I go like, that's awesome. That makes me really proud, because filmmaking is tough work. It's extremely tough work. And so if I'm going to do it, I want to have fun and I really want to enjoy it, every minute of it. And that's like my one way of like doing that. Like at the end of the day, I got sick of this when I would work on other people's films or short films. At the end of the day, you just never saw anything. You'd never see it. You'd never see an edit of it. You never hear from them again. So while I'm filming, I'll be like, oh, come over here, Melissa, take a look at your scene. And I'd show the video and I'd explain what's going on. And so they'd be like, oh, wow, that looks good. Oh, yeah. And then they would get excited and they would ramp up their performance. So I think that including people in on it. It doesn't mean saying, hey, everybody, like take over my vision and just do whatever you want to do. It's guiding that, but just it's taking input, listening, but kind of creating a friendship out of it. And I think that's helped so much through the 9 years of keeping people involved somehow.
Yeah. I think that's a key, for anyone who's listening, who's an employer or a boss, to remember, how can you engage with your employees? How can you engage the people that you work with so that they can feel like they have ownership of what they're helping you build, And I think that's something that I'm thinking about constantly. Like, my employees, they aren't just people who clock in and clock out. They're people who are actually helping me build something that I'm trying to build, And so trying to achieve that, I think, is something that is noble to to strive towards, and that is something that we always have to be thinking about and working on in order to achieve it, because otherwise it's kind of easy to kind of, this is mine, this is my thing, I want it done this way, and then that starts to disclude people and make them feel not part of it. And then when people don't feel that way, then it is just a job. They're clocking in, clocking out. I'm not getting paid enough.
Yeah.
This isn't worth my time. And, you know, eventually you'll have lots of turnover, and the process won't be as fun. So I think that's great. And I think that's an awesome little nugget of truth there that you have shared with us. Some value bombs, if you will. The other thing I'm curious about is your personality like a dog on a bone kind of guy? Because I feel like if you've spent this long, like when I was watching the documentary, it was just amazing to me how diligent you were. I'm like, dude, there's nothing this guy can't do if he puts his mind to something. Like, you know, bodybuilder, like, you know, like whatever it may be, it seems like you have that ability to put your mind on something and then have to follow it to completion. And one of the most powerful scenes for me in the documentary was when you got that final edit and you just started crying, like this huge weight had been lifted off your shoulders. I started tearing up because I was like, oh man, like this guy's been working on this thing for 9 years, you know, and finally he can say that it's done, you know? Yeah. And so, I mean, what do you think that is about you that made you stick with it so long?
Oh man, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know. It's like when I have something like in my head and I see it, I remember telling my uncle once, or let me reverse that. My uncle said it once to me. It was actually at my Eagle Scout ceremony years ago. He said, Joel, he's like, I think I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically something like, he's like, basically Joel goes to bed and he dreams of winning. And my thought is, making the film, I always like see my projects as succeeding really well. But understand, I'm also very understandable to know that things are not going to be the greatest, or it's not going to be that. But I think what's important is I just hold on to that of go, this is going to be good. Like I've done enough projects and things to go, you know, this is solid. I think this is going to be good. This is not going to be the best thing since sliced bread, but it's like, but you, in a way you have to put in that 2000% that it's going to be awesome. This is going to be a great project. This is going to be worth it. And I think you have to find that. But to me, it's finding that element. I actually recorded this in a little making of thing for another side short film series I do. I'm not trying to like promote again, but if you look at projectfalaire.com, we did these short films. The reason I did these is because like I just had to get creative juices out over these 9 years because the movie took so long. I just needed to do something else, you know? But in one, I like started like almost going on this crazy rant because I was like, wow, that's definitely my Norman stress getting out. And one was, find that thing that gets you excited about the project, that like and made you initially get excited about even thinking about doing it. And then find a way to hold on to that. Like really, because I see a lot of people are like, oh, I want to go do this, or I want to go hike this mountain, or I want to go do this. And then they like so quickly lose interest. And so like one is just, it's like find that nugget, that thing. And to me, it was this like the story. It's just, to me, it was unique. Like it's like it's unorthodox, like the way I wanted to try to film it and how the story like reveals itself. But like to me, I'm like, oh, it's so worth it if we can do that one shot. If that one reveal, like, man, if I can pull it off, yeah, it's gutsy. Maybe it's going to suck. But that's what made me excited to make the movie. And I just held on to it. Like, I was just like, I honestly, I just get really sick of people who just are, you know, who are like negative about, it's got to be this way and it's going to be this. And I see so many people that are like a million times more talented. You think like, oh, bodybuilder, but I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that. I would just find someone who is one. And I think that's the key is don't just do it yourself. Find someone who's really good. Like Ben, he's an incredible designer. I wasn't able to do it. I didn't have the skills back then. Now I've rivaled him now, but but like back then it's kind of like, okay, Ben, can you help me create the template for this? Come up with a color scheme. find someone. Don't just think you could pull off the CGI graphics. Like maybe you can pull it off, but maybe it'll be terrible, but find that person who's really good. Ask him, do whatever it takes. Like most people are not willing to do whatever it takes. And that's what I've really found out over these 9 years is that people say they have great projects and they want to do stuff, but they're not willing to take that awkward 15 minutes or 20 minutes an evening where you go, man, I'm so exhausted from today. I just want to eat pizza or do something. No, that's the time where, that's when the suffering needs to start. And you go, you know what? I'm going to take 20 minutes and I'm going to write down my notes. Or, I'm going to drive back over to my brother's and we're going to edit together. So for Norman, for the sound, like in case you didn't know, Mark, every single sound was redone. Every sound.
Yeah, that's another thing that's mind blowing to me. Even the overdubbing of all the like, I couldn't believe that you didn't even have like a shotgun mic or something like that to capture like crappy audio.
Like it was the worst thing ever. But to me, it's like I knew what I needed to have audio wise, but I just knew, okay, great, I can pay a guy $200-300 to come for the day. But we shot on such a random schedule. Hey, Steve, we're filming at Friday at 2:00. Okay, cool. We're shooting on Saturday for a couple hours. You just can't. My brother was in California at the time. You just can't find people that are gonna. It's just tough. It worked because the guy literally lived at the house. The actor literally lived a mile down the road. Things worked out well. But yeah, it's finding that thing that really excites you. Like if you can't find that, then maybe like that's not the project. Maybe that's not the one for you. And then the other thing is, I would say, and I'm sure Ben has already heard me say this a million times, but I kind of have a philosophy. If you're not already doing that, if you're already not doing what you want to do, I would honestly say, maybe this sounds really rough, but I don't think you honestly want to do it. You have to find yourself in there and go, do I really want to do this? Are you tricking yourself going, oh, this sounds really nice, but I don't really want to do it? And you know what I mean? You have to get past no, this is what I really want to do. I want to make music. I really want to make music. But in the back of your head, deep back there, you're kind of going, but maybe not enough to skip this night because I'm doing something with my friends. You have to sacrifice like that time with your friends or time with your family, whoever, like you're going to have to find it somewhere. There's always going to be a sacrifice, especially if you're doing something with zero budget, whatever. And I would say, really search deep and go, if I really want to do this, like I'm the only one keeping myself from it. Start today. And there was a blog. I was told to write a little synopsis and bio thing for a film festival I went to in Australia. I got to go for a sci-fi festival there, and it was blessed. I got to win Best Director, and we got Best Actor at a sci-fi festival. Wow. And that was super special. I was not expecting that whatsoever. I just wanted to be there and get promo footage so I could say, "Hey guys, I'm at festivals," And it was like, "Oh yeah, you got Best Director," and now I'm just lost because now I'm thinking about that win because it was so exciting. What was I saying? I got completely lost.
Blog post, something about a blog post.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I got lost in that win.
You're like, that was so great.
You're like, remember that time I won? Yeah, that's cool.
Anyway, what are we doing?
Wait, why are we here?
So I'm writing this post. He said, write about. It was like, what is your favorite moment of the whole film? And I was like, I don't know if I should share this. It's like, this is stupid, but I think this is actually pure truth to what is like making a low budget film and working your heart out on something. And it was waiting on the first piece of music from Daniel. And I literally was using the bathroom, right? And I would find some time on my phone and I would always make notes. Like if I was on the bathroom, like I got nothing to do, I would just sit and write a few notes on, the music or what I needed to edit the next day or who I needed to call, who I needed to email. But Daniel sent me the first track of the music, and it's honestly as it was in the film. And I just cried. I just cried because it was so good. I was like, I'm not going to be a failure. This movie's going to work. Because when I think about a film, I'm honestly thinking about every aspect and I'm trying to combine it at once, right? To me, it's not just, oh, the music's going to be okay. The movie will be on its own without it. Like if it's just okay. It's like almost like maybe it's a little too detrimental because I make it work where it has to fit perfectly. And if it doesn't, all of a sudden it's just, it's crap. But that's just how I think. I go, well, no. I actually made this scene to work so that when you hear this guy walking off screen, you only hear him in audio. And now you're betting on a shot, hoping that the audio sounds good enough that people understand. So that's a big risk. But it's like, that's what excites me about making films is that like, I can use those tools. And so I had so much fun working with my brother to do audio because
is that what your brother does?
Yeah. So it's funny. I think he got into it because I did filmmaking. And so it was something just naturally we had to get done. And then I think he started doing it and he just really picked it up. And he's worked on a bunch of movies. He was at a company in LA for a while. He worked on the latest RoboCop movie or one, maybe 5 years ago. He worked on that doing gear sounds and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. But even as an audio engineer, like, when you do that, it's like you're never featured. And so I said, well, Jonah, one cool about this is you're gonna be able to say, well, anything you hear, that was me. and he's like, that was a fateful decision. We spent 35 days at his house every single day to get it done, to get the final mix done. It was...
I remember that.
I've never felt so cooped up in my entire life. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, staying home with COVID was like easy compared to that. Like, because it was, you'd work and you'd drive over and you'd be there till 2 a.m. and you'd work on the same thing. And you would hear literally the same sound, the same 5-second sounds 1,000 times. And then, you'd come back 6 hours later and you're only like maybe like 60 seconds further. Oh my gosh. But it was just one of those things. I told my wife, I was like, this is where I'm going to be. I'm just pretending nothing exists because the moment you think about anything else, you just panic and you want to get out because it was so tough.
How was that on your marriage? Was there fights over this? Was there?
No.
Joy's so sweet. I mean, I've interacted with her via email, and and she seems so nice and just agreeable and kind.
For context, Joel's wife Joy works for me here at Knapsack, and just one quick funny note is that Joel and I, before Joel and Joy were married, Joel and I used to be in class together at the college we went to, and Joy would be there with us too, like when they were dating, and Joy would be taking notes while me and Joel were doodling ideas for his movie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like this was back in college and Joy was like taking our notes. I was like, why didn't I know to hire her then when she was taking notes for me in class? I should have known.
Doing our homework.
Yeah, exactly.
Doodling for movies.
Yeah.
No, it was never once a problem. And I think there's a huge misconception, I think, about the film that it was like every second. You know what I mean? To me, it would be like, Joy goes to bed at 10. All right, driving over to Jonah's from 10 till 1 a.m. You know what I mean? It wasn't always during ideal times. I mean, we'd have weekends where we shoot, but most of the times I would try to schedule it around stuff so that it wasn't taking, it wasn't like, my wife hasn't seen me for like 4 weeks because I'm gone forever. It wasn't like that. I'd say the worst was honestly the mixing session because that was like a do or die. We had a date. We had to get done, and it was like, and she would come over and she would sleep over at that house with us, and like, we just spend the night and make pancakes in the morning, and we're like, back to the grind. But
it was like agreed, like sprints, like, hey, it's gonna be hard during this time. We're doing this, and it's like, okay, cool.
I mean, because with money, it was never like, oh, hey, I got to pull out 10 grand for this, and or something like that. It was always small amounts, again, spread out. Like it's a lot for us, but it was.
Yeah, $100 a month.
Yeah, I guess it was not a lot when you put it over 9 years.
Yeah.
It was. I kind of always just considered it as my fun hobby. So other people might go camping on a weekend. I would slowly work on my film. And I mean, I think I have the greatest wife in the world who was always 100% about it. She always knew it was going to be awesome.
Yep.
Always knew it was going to be. It was never a silly project. It was never anything silly. So it was my number one cheerleader for it. And it was like I think if she had lost any hope on that, I think it would have been immediately done. I would have been done, because I think the worst parts of the whole 9 years was honestly more me thinking, if this is just like horrible, did I waste a lot of years doing something that I could have been doing, like with family or whatever it is? Like, what was I missing something? You know what I mean? And that was always tough because I'm like, crap, I'm going to find out if I'm good at this or bad at this, because I don't have anything else before it really that, like that you could have seen beforehand and go, oh man, his next film, is going to be good, or I could find out if I'm good or bad at it, because even with short films, people take it in such a tiny little like snack as a short film. It's hard for somebody to go, like, it would be hard for me to get you to come into a theater and watch my 6-minute short film. You're not going to take that same serious. But all of a sudden, when I tell people, oh yeah, I've got a feature film. What? A feature film? Like, there's a different thing in people when they react to that. So I didn't have that experience of a reaction of going, I mean, I've had people say, oh, I like your short films. People have been generally like, this is good. I've had good feedback. So I have an idea, but I don't truly have am I going to find out I'm a filmmaker? I'm not, and did I waste a lot of time? So that was just tough. Like, should I have been doing something else? Is this not for me? That was really, really scary, because it's super easy, I'd say, for friends to be like, no, Joel, you got this. And I always appreciated that, but it was always hard because I'm like, I don't know. I wish I could be on your side being the encourager, because when it comes out and you start hearing feedback or whatever, and it's like, wow, no, like that just faded away, it's gonna be like, crap, did I do anything? And so I think my lasting impression on the whole film, I think, is more of just in a way, the documentary is just about helping people to get out there, and, people who have really good talent. Is just the talent I have, and I know I have, is to get up and go do something and just not squander any moment and just like get it done. And it's not just like, I gotta be a busybody. I'm not to be a busybody, but if you're going to say you want to do something, dig deep, find out you actually do want to do it, or find out you don't actually want to do it and figure out what's going on with there, but it's like, I hear way too many people like, oh, I want to make a film. I got this idea. And I'm like, you've been doing it for years. You have a zillion times better equipment than I do.
Right.
Go do it. I wish I had your camera. I didn't have that luxury, you know?
So, I mean, what's next for you as far as, because right now you're a designer. Are you freelance? Or you work for yourself, or do you work for a company?
I'm a web designer. I work for a company. So my day jobs, I build websites and stuff. So we're all building websites.
Everyone's building websites these days. And so what does that look like for you? I mean, would you hope, if Christopher Nolan calls and says, hey, I want to redo your movie, and like, are you going to do that? Or do you have another film in the works in your mind, and do you want to like take a crack at another deal? And then also, I guess, is this kind of having it finally being released and coming out, is that kind of a nice like chapter close to Norman, like in the sense of you wouldn't feel at peace if it was something that maybe you did but then weren't able to take it to the finish line?
Yeah, I mean, with Norman finishing, it's definitely going to feel like a nice closure to it. What's also insane is the fact that Norman is going to be coming out in South Korea, and I think it's for Canada. So it's like, that's all delayed, so it's just going to have this weird thing. I remember someone told me this like a couple of years ago, and I was like, what does that mean? This one girl who did a film, and she's like, just know you're going to be promoting and working on this for like 2 years when you release it. And I was like, man, really? I was like, yes, really. It's just a long monumental thing. But I think having that is going to be, I'm going to be relieved, because I feel like I've had so many backup hard drives. I just don't want to lose it. You have this, like, I don't want to screw it up before it's out. But once it's out, it's like, oh, thank God. Okay. It's on DVD. If it happens, it's done. It's out there, so that's going to be wonderful. But I think what's next, like, honestly, what's next really kind of scares me. I'll be honest. I had someone tell me, say, don't be afraid of success. And that it was, now I'm thinking, I don't even know if it was on your podcast. I heard that. Maybe it was. I saw where might have been someone near the start of it that said it, but there was someone that was saying, like, don't be afraid of success. And I was like, I think I actually am. I am actually afraid of it. And by that, it's like, because I want to do what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like the way I made Norman, like if someone said, oh, we want to make a Norman too, and you're going to get this guy and this team, and this is what you have. And I like working with great people, but it's like, if like the next project's like, oh yeah, we got this script writer and he's making it, but you don't get any input. They're just, nah, I'll be totally fine being a web designer, and I'll figure out my own project on my own way. And so honestly, I'm hoping Norman does well enough that I can skip all that crap, to be honest. And I can just do it myself and be like, guys, I'm making a new film, and now I have my own budget, and I can pay my own guys, and we can have fun, and we can do it faster. It's not going to be 9 years. It's going to be much faster, of course. But Yeah, I mean that's what scares me. It's like it's one thing, you maybe get hired like oh, I could make a cool Godzilla movie. I don't know. I'm like, I like Godzilla. I'm like, that'd be fun. But I'm like, to me, I'm like, no, I got a film about a father and son. They run away and ride a train, and it's about the story about them, the long journey home. It's about a dad who's basically protecting his son and wants to get him back home from this dangerous thing he ran away, but ends up realizing because they just don't understand each other very well, that instead of just rushing home to take the long way home, and they end up taking a route across these mountains to get back home, and they learn a lot about each other. And to me, I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. Like, I know I can film that really well, and the camp scenes and, where they cross and the lighting, and that excites me, But, but yeah, to be honest, like a success really does scare me because I'm like, I don't really care about the money. Like, I really don't. Like, it's just like filmmaking bores me unless there's something I'm excited about doing. Like, just the act. Like, there's some people I know that just love the act of just making films. They honestly don't even care the end result. And I honestly, I'm kind of jealous of that because I enjoy that part. But to me, the end of it is there's a specific story I want to tell. I want to shoot it a certain way, and I want the audio to sound a certain way and the music sounds way. And if I can do that, filmmaking is fun. That's exciting, and I love it. But if I can't have that, it's kind of like, it's just like, it's an extra little work. It's fine.
Yeah. How did you, go about getting distribution and things like that? Because I'm assuming that you're licensing it so that you'll get some sort of cut or some sort of financial benefit for every stream that happens or every DVD that happens, or DVD that gets sold.
Yeah. And so that was one of the reasons we went through film festivals. And I would say part of the film festivals kind of helped in a way, but I would definitely warn future filmmakers that like film festivals are just, unless you get into a really big, like a really like top 10 one, they're mostly garbage. Because there was a scene from an old Groucho Marx movie, and it's Harpo and Chico, and they both come to each other, and they're sitting there like, I got a present for you. And they both hand each other like a thing of like a beef stick, the exact same one. And it felt like that, where you just go there and like no one has any connections other than they're like, I'd be like, hey, Mark, do you want to be on my podcast? And you're like, hey, well, do you want to be on my like, it's like the same kind of thing. Like there's almost like there's no distance out of that. There's no connections. And you think you might see that. And you might find some, and I'm not saying they're not all, but, and it was awesome meeting some of the other filmmakers, but most of them are just like, it's like almost more like fanboys of films.
Yeah. It's like an echo chamber.
They're excited to see your film, which is great.
Yeah.
But that's about mostly it. But it was good to go through that, to understand things and learn things. And I think everyone's going to have to just kind of fall and trip your way through it. But I met a bunch of different people, but even years before during the Kickstarter, I met a producer, and he's been with us this entire time. And he's helped he's essentially been our Gandalf when it comes to like festivals and saying, hey, what should we do? Or, hey, what's this budget? Should we talk about this? He says no. And so we found a sales guy, and he's been great, and he's been working with us. And that's how we eventually got picked up. But I would say you got to make a good film. And I got sick and tired of people saying certain things didn't matter. The font doesn't matter. The sound's okay. It doesn't matter. The visual effects, like it's good enough. It's be fine. I got so sick of that because I'm like, people want to see my movie. And I go, why is that? If I didn't have the visual effects, okay, would they still want to see it? To me, I have to think, we have a-okay story. Like maybe it's like whatever, a grade B, B minus, I don't know. You know what I mean? Whoever it is. So I think I have A+ music. So that's going to raise the waters a little bit more, and those ships are all going to come up. Well, the sounds phenomenal. Jonah did incredible work. It's incredible. I've known people who had no idea we did ADR. And I'm happy about that because I've seen major motion pictures, and I think the ADR is pretty bad. Ours, we like match the reverb, the breaths, every single sound.
Yeah,
we went
it's
like
crazy.
insane. But I think that all adds to why people want to see it. I think it matters.
Yeah.
Like, especially because we don't have any actors. I'm a nobody. You know what I mean? Like, maybe this will be helpful. Maybe I'll have it. My name will mean something after this more, in the filmmaking world. But before I'm just a dude with a camera. So like, you have to see my movie because you think it looks good and you think the story is going to be interesting, not because Brad Pitt's in it or something like that. Like, I don't have that. So every opportunity I had, I pushed for it. And so, dude, I remember visual effects, poor guys, they were so awesome. but they would bring me back some of the results on some of the screens. And because my camera quality was just in the sense of like the actual sensor and resolution of it was a little bit soft, I'm just like such a stickler for realism. I was like, guys, can you adjust that blur like 2.5%? They're like, oh, you know. But those are the things that to me, it's like when you see it. And I think I've had so many people say like, man, I was just like a really believable. I just felt there. I just wasn't thinking it's a visual effect. It just felt like it's talking and whatever. And I was like, if it doesn't work, my movie fails. And so that was so important. So like, it's tough. You got to push for it, but those are little details. The 2.5% blurs, is what makes a good movie.
That's so good. If there was like one thing you would leave people with, I have some takeaways I want to do too, but maybe think about like what would be one action item you would leave our audience with, business owners, creatives, and stuff like this. But I've got a couple of takeaways. Feel free to correct me if I'm misquoting you on any of this, but these are the things I feel like I learned from our conversation. You can learn a lot by imitating and practicing over and over. You don't have to learn it from books or YouTube. You don't have to stick to the rules everybody tells you. Dedication is more important than perfection. If you want other people to be excited, you need to show up first and be the most involved to get other people motivated. I feel like that totally works for business owners and team leaders. If you build real relationships with your team, then they'll really care. If you give freedom to people and respect their input, then they'll take ownership. One way to stay motivated is to always envision your project succeeding. Most people are talented, but they aren't willing to do what it takes. If you're not already doing what you want to do, maybe you don't really want to do it. And lastly, find that thing that made you excited the first time and hold on to it. What would you say, action item wise, would be something good that people could do this week that would push them forward?
So let's just say you have the motivation to work on whatever it is. I'll give you two things. One is like get accountability, and one of the accountability is honestly announcing what you're doing. Having my Facebook page, and even with Kickstarter, like in one word, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate that I did Kickstarter, just because like you feel so imprisoned. But I just use that to drive me that it's going to be excellent, because you feel so responsible, for certain people, and like, oh, what are they going to think? Now I've spent so much longer, it's tough. But I would say even with, like social media or whatever, or just telling your families and letting it be known and updating on that. Cause it's like by telling people, almost in a way, build up a way that you don't want to fail. You know what I'm talking about? It's kind of like you've told enough people, they're all expecting you to bring over this delicious triple chocolate cake. And then you show up, you're going to be a big dope going, I didn't do it, guys. You know what I mean? Like in a way it's been helpful kind of building that up, because it's helped, bring me going, oh, I've got a lot of people, on this, on the product, like from good move, I gotta bring my A game because these other people put a lot of their effort too. But then second would be, while you do that, is learn what you're terrible at and honestly write it down. Find out what you're really not good at. And be okay with that. Like find out, I'm not good at writing dialogue. And so that was one thing I just asked for help. I was like, don't be afraid to ask for help for that. Like if you feel like, like maybe you have to learn to recognize that. And I don't know if that's like a, looking away kind of like horse blinders to it, but take the horse blinders off, understand what you're bad at, and then go find someone who's good at that. So same with the music or the sound, like just, I'm good, I think, at visual storytelling. I wanted to push myself to do more dialogue, but I got help and I found really good people. And because to me, I was able to hear it and go, oh yeah, that's really good. And I could tweak it, but I couldn't write it. Man, if I could show you guys the script, the dialogue that I had, it was cringe real bad. And so I've gotten a lot better from then, but it's like, it's really important. I think you're going to really bring, step up your level of professionality for whatever the project is if you can just still understand, oh, this is real. I'm really good at these three things, but man, I can't do that. Let me find someone that's better to bring that up, and it's going to bring everything up. And final is details matter. Don't push them aside. Little details. They may be 1 or 2%, little things to think, but they're going to add up. They're going to be at that 15% by the end of the time. All those little tiny slivers of percents of Norman now add up to, let's say, 15 to 20% of the overall quality of the film. Those visual effects, those designs that Ben did, our poster, having a professional photographer take great photos that we've used for 9 years to promote the movie. They're good. and so attention to detail.
That's awesome. Joel, I'm so glad that you're on the show. I love this story. I so thankful to have gotten to know you. Hopefully I'll meet you in person sometime. My goal is to make it out there to Lynchburg, sometime this next year. Where can people connect with you, follow you, and get more information about Norman and its release?
Well, you can go to normanthefilm.com. That's the movie website. And pretty much there's a contact from there, has my email. We're on Facebook, on Instagram as well. I don't know those stuff as well. So it's just like the website stuff. I'm like old school. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like people are like, dude, Joe, you got to hashtag this. I'm like, what is that? What am I doing? Just see my movie, please.
Go to normanthefilm.com. Yeah.
But the film will be out February 2nd. Right now, I know it's going to be at least digitally, but I was told it's going to be out on DVD and Blu-ray as well. I think it's like a slow roll, and I'm not sure. It's wild, the whole process. It's honestly mind blowing, and I'm just like my attention to detail. I'm like, I need to know this, and where is it going to be in this? And it's kind of like it's all like chill, bro. Like that's how it feels with all the the companies. So I'm like, how do I I can't? It's hard to deal with that, because I'm like. But like you do it, like, if you do a poster, you send a high resolution, not just like a 240p one. Like, I want it to be done right. But yeah, you can find, if you just look up Norman and Joel Guelzo, you'll find me out there.
Awesome. Well, go to thefridayhabit.com to find show notes for our episode. You can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. At the very bottom, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit System, and that'll show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of in your business.
That's right. And if you enjoy this episode, please subscribe. I know a lot of you listen, but you don't click that subscribe button. So click that little subscribe button and leave us a review if you are enjoying this. Ask us some questions. You'll make it onto the show.
And thanks for listening to The Friday Habit. And until next time,
live every day like it's Friday.